the brightest scientists, researchers, Nobel laureates in our state. And as a consequence, we are advancing an independent scientific review panel with other states to counter the mis and disinformation coming from this.
Most days, Stephen Colbert is all about the punchlines. Patrick, though, is the one steering the ship. For Bet David, that's the fuel that keeps him going. But things spiral fast once the two agree that Gavin Newsom's polished image deserves a serious takedown. Colbert delivers the sharp wit while Patrick maps out the strategy. Suddenly, California's golden favorite looks less like a rising star and more like a worn-out sales pitch. What follows is a mix of absurdity, comedy, and the unmistakable stamp of corporate hands at work. The real issue isn't whether Newsom has an answer, it's whether the audience can stop laughing long enough to even care.
You just did. On that subject, over the weekend, you signed a new California law that bans ICE from concealing their identities, which is a great idea. And I'm just curious, I mean, there's all these reasons why you would want to do for the population that is actually being policed by them.
Still, if you're enjoying this, don't forget to subscribe. You might be surprised at how much support comes your way. Gavin Newsom practically exposed himself in the process, though it's rare to see Stephen Colbert leave his desk to confront a governor directly. And let's be honest, Newsom often looks less like California's leader and more like he's auditioning for a shampoo commercial with his hair gel gleaming under the lights.
So this is directed to Governor Newsom. I got some questions for you. I keep watching you to see what you're going to be doing. And it feels like you have an identity crisis, like you don't know who you are. 1 minute a year ago, Trump is a horrible person. Kamala's going to win. Biden's going to win. I have no interest in running for office. Never, not at all. I love being a governor. And then this year, Trump wins. Then you say, oh, I got to start a podcast. America's going to the center. We got to find out to talk to the center. So you go and talk to all these Republicans. You talk to Bannon, you talk to Kirk, you talk to a bunch of them. And then California protesting happens because of ICE. So now this is an opportunity for you. Listen, no kings. We don't want.
Then comes Patrick Bet David carrying the vibe of someone who could turn a family holiday into a masterclass on hostile takeovers. When his path crosses with Colbert's, it's like two massive worlds colliding, and the impact shatters Newsom's carefully crafted image as suddenly as a moth meeting a bug zapper on a warm summer night.
And now you're trying to be Trump when Newsom was right about everything with the hat and all this other stuff. Who are you? Who's your marketing person? This is the most embarrassing campaign. Everybody's watching. Kamala was already the most embarrassing loss in the history of Democratic Party for as long as I've been around watching this stuff. But I'm really watching to see what you're doing. And let me tell you from what perspective I'm coming from. I'm coming from just watching a competitor from a side that maybe I don't agree with politically. I don't know.
He carried himself as if stepping into yet another flattering spotlight, the kind where reporters treat him like California's cherished prodigy. Never mind that the state's economy often feels like a roller coaster missing its safety bars. But Colbert isn't there to play nice. His sharp jabs land like sparkling firecrackers, and suddenly, that expensive suit looks less like a shield of authority and more like a Halloween costume worn by a kid trying too hard to seem grown up.
Understand, whenever I hear that they want to hide their identities, is why don't any public safety officer understand that they are safer by identifying themselves? Because America is a place loaded for guns, and heaven forbid anything should happen to one of these guys because they were masked, no ID, windowless van. That just looks like an attack for their own safety.
When Patrick Bet David enters the scene, he's not trading in punchlines. He's armed with spreadsheets sharp enough to cut. His charts on California's budget look less like financial documents and more like medical reports from a grim autopsy. At the same time, Colbert is busy mocking Newsom's hair as if it hired its own campaign consultant. The strangeness comes from how little they coordinate. It's not teamwork, but rather two very different styles accidentally landing blows on the same target. It feels like an unplanned sitcom crossover that nobody asked for, but everyone secretly enjoys. Newsom, of course, tries to keep moving as though nothing happened, yet Colbert, with his smirks, exaggerated gestures, and self-satisfied air, seems like he's auditioning for a reality show called Governors Gone Wild. Meanwhile, Patrick launches what looks like a corporate-style hostile takeover, dismantling Newsom's political empire piece by piece the way a business collapses under bad math. One roasts him for sounding like a motivational poster pinned up in a failing startup, while the other treats him like a balance sheet that's completely forgotten how to add. The result? Total pandemonium, chaotic, biting, and strangely satisfying.
Here's my suggestion to you. Choose a podcast format, go for 3 hours, okay? And do it this way. You come to us, okay?
There you go.
We will guarantee 3 hours. We'll guarantee minimum $1 million to both just to participate to your campaign. We'll do a super chat. People will be able to call in, all that other stuff. But it shouldn't be 2 minutes. Oh, stop. No, okay. No, none of that stuff.
Yeah.
I want to see if Newsom can talk for 10 minutes with an answer. And
Newsom does what he always does when cornered. He shifts the blame. Sometimes it's shadowy billionaires, sometimes vague acts of nature, and other times he just shrugs as if California's housing crisis were nothing more than a minor hiccup, like losing Wi-Fi during brunch. Colbert isn't buying it. He paints the picture of a governor who'd probably credit gravity itself for tripping over his own shoelaces. While that's unfolding, Patrick calmly but mercilessly reminds everyone that the so-called budget surplus vanished faster than a glass of Napa Valley wine at a fundraiser. The reaction in the room is almost physical, half the late-night crowd gasping between fits of laughter, while Patrick's followers nod along like employees listening to a CEO justify cutting their bonuses. In the middle of it all stands Gavin Newsom, somehow radiating both cocky confidence and quiet panic. Patrick presses on, listing the tax flight, crumbling infrastructure, and migration charts that make California look less like a dream and more like the latest contestant voted off in a reality show elimination.
In Border Patrol to intimidate folks from walking in to our event. He ended up arresting this poor soul that was just trying to sell strawberries as collateral damage to intimidate us. That is a preview, Stephen, of things to come in voting booths and polling places across this country.
The transition is seamless, almost eerily so, like it was choreographed in advance. To Colbert, Newsom is the very picture of style over substance. Patrick drives the point home with the line graph plunging like a stock nobody wants to touch. This kind of 1-2 punch belongs in a wrestling ring, yet Newsom doesn't realize he's in one until he's already flat on the mat. Then the chaos escalates. Instead of stepping back, Newsom doubles down, tossing out buzzwords and leaning into rehearsed speech patterns, hoping that enough mentions of innovation and equity will distract from streets riddled with potholes and rent prices higher than a Tesla lease. Colbert's eye rolls are so sharp they verge on performance art. Meanwhile, Patrick calmly notes that repeating empty slogans won't refill the state's rainy day fund. Despite the audience laughing, there's an undercurrent of tension, the kind that creeps in when the quiet truths finally hit. What unfolds isn't an interview, it's a slow-motion train wreck. And all the while, Newsom is still cast as California's future political leader, the savvy celebrity with perfect hair and boundless ambition.
Why am I giving him advice? You have to stop it with the Twitter thing. I don't know where his wife is. If I were his wife, I would say, "What? You are making a fool of yourself. Stop it."
She has to have some sense. There's no way. She's a very smart person. She has to have some sense of...
When satire meets strategy, Newsom starts to look less like California's rising star and more like someone who accidentally hit reply all on a scathing email. His carefully curated brand begins to fray, revealing awkward, defensive, and surprisingly unprepared moments. Patrick's followers lap it up, and Colbert's audience can't get enough. There's something mesmerizing about watching someone who once seemed untouchable suddenly realize their armor was just painted cardboard. Even people usually indifferent to California politics can't look away. Best of all, neither Patrick nor Colbert changes a thing. Colbert remains the sharp-tongued jester, wielding wit as precise as a surgeon's scalpel. Patrick keeps up his role as the corporate assassin, presenting figures and flaws with the calm authority of someone addressing a board of ruthless investors. The humor is like a forced smile in a burning house, chaotic, absurd, and unrelenting. And yet, as usual, they never see eye to eye because that's politics. And Colbert ensures the final punch lands with ruthless perfection. As Patrick drops the last chart, the camera cuts to Gavin, who now seems less like a leader and more like a man trapped in the wrong group chat at exactly the wrong moment.
Dana, it was Hannity, all these guys, outraged, offended, disgusted, because we put a mirror up to Trump and the absurdity of what's going on in this country, the absurdity of Donald Trump, the absurdity of these networks playing into it.
Suddenly, the myth of invincibility crumbles, not from a single decisive blow, but through a relentless stream of statistics, spectacle, and sharp irony. Colbert steps in as a sardonic tour guide just as Newsom starts trying to return to his rehearsed talking points. California, under his lens, resembles a dystopian theme park, admission prices climbing, rides falling apart, and the mascot reduced to a tax bill wearing sunglasses. The audience wriggles with laughter, barely able to contain themselves. Patrick Bet-David takes a different approach. No analogies, no jokes, just receipts. Charts flash showing companies fleeing California so fast, it looks like a U-Haul clearance sale. He sprinkles in phrases like progressive innovation, as if shouting them could fix the issues facing residents' Teslas. The repeated claims that California is thriving start to sound like a bad infomercial. With every new tax increase, Patrick delivers the same punchline, a complimentary tote bag, and the line, but wait, there's more.
Have it or not, if you do, there's a clip. Is this the one? Go ahead and play this clip. Same interviewer, by the way, coincidence, but go ahead.
Mind would want to run when you have someone of such esteem as our incumbent president of the United States, with a record of accomplishments and a man of character, a man of decency.
Fears Trump will cancel 2028 election to stay in power. Rob, can you please play this clip? And by the way, I think his hair got grayer and it looks better on him. Let me just start off with a compliment. Gavin, if you say we never compliment you, and then after the compliment comes something else that has to do with
If you ever want to pay Gavin a compliment,
Go ahead.
say he's got great hair.
Job.
Go ahead.
And then you run out.
Colbert seizes the moment immediately. California politics, he quips, has become a subscription service nobody asked for. And just like those fine print contracts, your credit card keeps getting charged with no option to cancel. Pay more, get less. Even Patrick, usually as composed as a poker pro, can't help but smirk as the audience erupts in laughter. Then comes the elephant in the room, homelessness. Colbert compares Newsom's pledge to fix it to one of those endless Marvel sequels. Exciting visuals, high drama, but the problem still lingers when the credits roll. Patrick, by contrast, is icy and precise. He lays out the numbers, highlighting billions spent with nothing to show for it, like an accountant exposing fraud. He compares Newsom to a social media influencer who looks perfect in photos but can't pay the rent. He skewers the obsession with appearances, noting that California's public school budget is probably smaller than its PR budget. As Patrick drops his final hammer, the crowd roars. The migration data is stark. Hundreds of thousands of residents are packing up their lives and leaving for anywhere with lower taxes and cheaper rent. A mass exodus that underscores the consequences behind the spectacle.
Have a great leader with great policies. If you and I were to compare Newsom and DeSantis, who's a better communicator? Newsom. Who is more physically attractive, tall, on camera, looks better? Newsom. Who likes the limelight more? Newsom. Who is probably more comfortable around people? Newsom. Do we give a shit about any of that stuff? No, we care about results. We literally don't care about that. We care about results. What did DeSantis do when there was a hurricane and a bridge went down?
It's a masterclass in political demolition. Colbert skewers the visuals while Patrick lays bare a reality Newsom would rather ignore. Their contrasting styles make the spectacle both hilarious and brutal. Caught in the middle, Newsom flails like a clown at a funeral. One opponent strikes with sharp logic, the other with cutting laughter. Colbert even jokes that Newsom could run for president, likening it to spreading California's problems nationwide, a gift no one asked for. Patrick dives in like a banker, rushing an IPO for a bankrupt company. With charts and images so grotesque, they could be horror movie relics, he paints a grim picture of what a Newsom presidency might look like. You almost feel pity for him, but only almost. In the end, both men land on the same joke, underscoring the truth. Newsom is more brand than leader. His legacy is sealed not as a daring political visionary, but as the man undone by the clash of two entirely different worlds.
One reason I want him to run for president, well, is because he's obviously a winner.
Define a winner.
He's a smart, real guy with a pair of balls.
What areas has Newsom won in? You said he's a winner.
Winner of the election.
But based on what, though? Do you want results? Like, what has he done to California to say he's a winner?
Oh, God. I don't know. It's too... I've been doing political commentary on television for 30 years. I think I can tell.
You're saying things you do not know what you're...
Entrepreneurial acumen and late-night wit rarely share a stage, yet when they collide, the fallout is spectacular. And Gavin Newsom was squarely in the crosshairs. For once, the polished veneer of California's golden boy cracked. Colbert wielded satire like a scalpel, dissecting Newsom's carefully curated image, while Patrick Bet-David struck with spreadsheets sharper than swords, exposing the state's economic flaws and migration exodus. The combination was devastating. One attacked with laughter, the other with unflinching logic. Newsom, caught in the middle, fumbled like a clown at a funeral, spouting rehearsed phrases about innovation and equity while potholes and skyrocketing rents screamed for attention. Colbert's eye rolls were almost performance art, Patrick's charts almost menacingly precise. The audience, split between late-night hysterics and corporate-minded nods, watched as California's problems were laid bare, billions spent with little to show, tax hikes, infrastructure failures, and a public school budget overshadowed by PR costs. Homelessness became the dancing elephant in the room, endlessly paraded like a Marvel sequel with none of the resolution. By the end, Newsom looked less like a governor and more like a hologram, convincing from afar but flickering under scrutiny. The final act brought the absurdity full circle. Colbert's jokes and Patrick's charts landed in tandem, proving that Newsom was more brand than leader. The once gilded politician's legacy turned to glitter dust, floating off the stage as the crowd roared. California politics, stripped of its polish and pageantry, became a spectacle of logic, wit, and calculated exposure. A political demolition derby in which Newsom, the man who had seemed untouchable, was revealed in full, unvarnished color. The curtain fell, charts lingered like ghosts, and the laughter reverberated, marking a crossover event between comedy and corporate scrutiny that no one could have predicted, but everyone would remember.